Hello, this is a continuation of lab walkthrough for lab 302, and now we are going to discuss the foreign key. In the diagram you can see the store table has store ID as the primary key, which is going to be repeated in the table pet as the foreign key, so that these two tables can be joined or connected. In a similar fashion, the supplier table has a primary key SUP_supplier name. We need to reuse that in the pet table to make sure that we can use this as a foreign key, which will help us connect these two tables or join these two tables. One way to add the foreign keys is right during your as you are creating the tables in the create table statement, you can use the foreign key constraint as well. But when we created our tables here, we did not use a foreign key constraint. So if you don't do that while creating the tables, another way is that we can alter the tables and add those constraints later. One thing I would like to point out is that in the store table, you have store ID as the primary key. The same column is repeated as a foreign key in the pet table. However, the name is not exactly the same. Here it's called store ID, and in the pet table it's called pet_store ID. So you need to know that primary key and the foreign key do not necessarily need to have the same name, but they need to have exactly same data type. So if this is integer here, it has to be integer here. Similarly, you will see in the supplier table, the primary key is SUP_supplier name. This primary key is reused as foreign key in the pet table. In the pet table, the name of the field is pet_supplier name. And you will see again that the names are not exactly the same, but the data type is the same. If it was varchar 25 in the supplier table, it is going to be varchar 25 in the pet table. So the way to add foreign keys would be, we will add foreign keys only in the table where these fields are used as the foreign key. So we can use alter table command to add foreign key constraint, one foreign key constraint referring to supplier name and connecting the pet table to the supplier table. Then we'll have another one where we will have store ID is pet_store ID is the foreign key, which is referencing the store table and connecting to store_store ID as the primary key. So let's go ahead and write this using alter table constraints. So let's go ahead and try to add a constraint, foreign key constraint between the pet table and the store table. So let's put, first of all, let's start with a comment. And this time again, I'm using a multi-line comment saying adding foreign key constraint to pet table connecting with store table. Okay, and this is going in multiple lines, so we can break any time. Just remember to close the comment by */. So now let's actually write the command, which is alter table. Name of the table is, which table should we alter? We are altering the pet table because that's where the foreign key is. tbl_pet. And how are we altering this table? By adding a constraint. So add constraint and give a name to the constraint. So we'll use fk_pet_store just to indicate which tables are we connecting. And what kind of constraint is this? This is a foreign key constraint. And what is the foreign key? So we will go into the pet table. That's the table we are modifying. The foreign key constraint is pet_store ID. And references Means which table are we referencing to? We are referencing to TBL store. And what is the primary key on that table? It's store_store ID. Okay, so that's the foreign key constraint. You can enter a semicolon and go. If we run this, it should add a foreign key constraint. Okay, so looks like we do have a typo here. Let's figure out what is that error. Okay, it's a very simple error here because the constraint keyword was not spelled correctly. So let's go ahead and do that again. Okay, that works. So the command successfully executed. Now we can add a new constraint to the same pet table, and we do the same thing again. Alter table, table pet, add constraint. This time we change the name FK pet supplier so that we are connecting the supplier table and the pet table. It's a foreign key constraint. And what is the foreign key in the pet table? It's called pet_supplier name. It references the TBL_supplier table, and the primary key on this table is SUP_supplier name. So we go ahead and run this statement. It says command completed successfully, so the second foreign key is added. If you actually want to see that, if this is added or not, we can go to the pet table. Make sure you refresh it first, expand it, go under keys, and if you expand it further, you should be able to see right about here, you will see that it has one primary key constraint and two foreign key constraints. See, FK pet_store, FK pet_supplier. So all the foreign key constraints are now created. Let's go ahead and make the diagram. So database diagram is the next thing we'll do. So click on the database diagram, right click, go to new database diagrams. Now we see all the tables. You can go ahead, highlight all the three tables, go add. Might take a moment and you will have all the tables here. Then you need to make sure you rearrange the tables, and we'll make it look exactly like the one that we have in our picture in the instruction sheet. So arrange it a little bit more so it looks good, and you can move any of the items here. So that's your database diagram, and you can clearly see that pet table has two relationships, one with the store table, one with the supplier table. So go ahead, take a screenshot of this and paste it in your Word document that you created earlier. So to take a screenshot, you can use a snipping tool. A snipping tool lets you create clear pictures of the areas that you want to, and you can paste this in your Word document. As per the instructions, you can save this diagram as pet store diagram. So let's go further in the instructions. The last question says we need to write queries to do the following. There are 4 steps here. The first one is that join pet and supplier table. So you need to select everything or select star by joining the pet table and the supplier table. And one example is given for you. So let's go ahead and write that query. And once you have written your query, you provide the SQL, like this statement of. So you have some questions here. The first question says you need to write some queries. In number 8, part A is join pet and supplier table. And the code is given to you as an example. So you are going to select star, means everything from TBL_pet, we'll call that table P, join TBL_supplier, let's call this as S. On the joining condition is that pet supplier name equals to SUP_supplier name from the S table. So let's go ahead and run this query. So now I'll go ahead, I typed it up. Let's go ahead and run this query. This is the result where you have everything from the pet table joined with everything from the supplier table such that pet supplier name matches SUP supplier name. So you will see that's the matching which is used for joining. The next question says that you need to modify the above script and join the pet and the store table. So let's go ahead and do that. This time I've written again a query wherein I have select star from pet table, join store table. The name I gave to the store table is ST on p.storeid from the pet table equals st.store_id. Let's go ahead and run this query. So again the same thing, you will see the common field is store ID. So you have pet store ID and store ID, you will see they are equal. So go ahead and get this code and paste this in your Word file. Similarly for the previous question, also make sure you paste your SQL code correctly in your Word file. Part C says create a double join and join supplier and store. Now the thing is that supplier and store table, as you can see in your diagram, they are not directly related. So first you need to join the store with the pet table, and then with this joined result you need to join the supplier table. Or you could start with supplier and pet and then join the store table with it. So how do we do that? So we'll start by select star from. The first table that I'm taking is the pet table and give it a name P. Join this with supplier, let's call it S. On, the join condition is going to be P dot pet supplier name equals S dot SUP supplier name. So we have joined these two tables. I'll just keep the join condition in parentheses and then use another join. This time I'm joining table store, let's call it ST, and we are joining this again with the pet table saying p.pet store id equals st, that is store id. So this is a double join because we are using two different join conditions. If you want to make it look better, we can reorganize this. So that's your first join condition, that's your second join condition. And let's go ahead and run this. You will see the results from the pet table, from the supplier table, as well as the store table. And these all three tables are now joined. So once again, take this code and place it in your Word file. Part D says change the store name for store 1 to pets and people and confirm the store name has changed with a select star script. So in D, we need to change some data in the table. Again, remember, we are not changing the structure of the table, so we are not going to do create table or alter table command. We are going to use update table command. So we start by update name of the table, which is tbl_store. And how are we updating it? We are setting, so set store_store name to what value? To pets and people. Where, so if we just leave it at that, then it will update every single row with that value. But we don't want every single row. We want wherever the store is 1, only change for that. So we'll use a where condition saying where store_store id equals 1. It means only update where the condition is met. So store, whichever stores have store ID 1, for those stores the store name will be changed to pets and people. So let's go ahead and execute it. One row affected like we expected. And just to make sure that we can see it, we'll start out by select star from tbl underscore store, and we'll verify this manually if this change has been made. So for store 1, you can say the store name now is pets and people. So that's all. Please go ahead, make sure you copy this code, place it in your Word file, go through your instructions to make sure you have followed all the guidelines for submission, and submit the assignment. That's all.